We'll start off with, as I right-click in the sketch, this choice called Center Rectangle. There's some other ways we could go about doing this, but I don't want to confuse you right now. Let's just choose Center Rectangle, and I'll pick on the origin. I'm out here, and it doesn't really need to be a perfect square. In fact, I don't want it to be a perfect square just yet. I'll click again. I really wasn't paying any attention to any of the sizes. And remember, whenever you go to use any of these geometry tools, it thinks you want to create another one unless you hit the escape key to stop it. So I escape out of the rectangle creation tool and I see this rectangle. We see some relations here. Of course, the two horizontals and the two verticals that come with any rectangle. And then we've got these coincidence symbols. It drew what are considered to be construction lines. These are not seen as boundaries for an extrusion. They're just lines so that it could use it to construct geometry. It also had a coincidence symbol between origin and one of those construction lines, and another coincidence symbol between origin and the other construction line. That's what enabled it to be centered wherever I click, and this was at origin. I'll show you some quicker ways to do that, or a way we used to do it some other time. But for right now, if I make that rectangle centered on origin, and I select one of the horizontal lines, hold the control key down, and select one of the vertical lines, among the relations that I can add to them is one called equal. This makes them equal length. Now I've got a perfect square, centered about origin. By adding that equal relation, I had to select the two lines, and then add that equal relation. Now I will dimension it. Just need to dimension one line. I'll make it 5. It really doesn't make any difference to me what size this is. But you will notice now, as I escape the dimensioning tool, I have a fully defined rectangle. Because I have this equal relation, it knows how tall it is as well as how wide. And because I use center rectangle and placed it right on origin, it knows where it is relative to x and y 0. So I've sketched all this on the front plane. Now I'm going to go to Features, an extruded boss base. I want this to be 5 inches thick as well. And actually, if I type 5 right now, notice that this is highlighted in blue at 0.1. That's the default value over here for the depth of this extrusion. If I type 5, just when it's highlighted in blue, I didn't need to go click and drag over it and hit enter once. I get a preview of what my box is about to look like. Remember I told you it rotates into the isometric view, the first feature that I go to make. Well, I know that it's all coming toward me at 5 inches. I could reverse the direction, I think I showed you this before break, and make it go backward, but I don't want that. What I actually want, you can click on this button and just toggle back and forth. What I actually want is an end condition. This word blind here represents the end condition. I'm going to click on that word blind and go to mid-plane. What that's now doing is taking that 5 inches and splitting it in half. 2.5 toward me, 2.5 away. If I click OK, I have a very specific reason for having done what I just did. And one of the reasons is that origin for the part, x, y, and z0 is right at the very center of that block, of that cube. What that also means is that the front plane cuts it right in half. So does the top plane, and so does the right plane. There are advantages to that down the road. So, I started off with this cube. I did two things. First, I'm going to delete this feature. I'm going to go back and edit this sketch. I've got to force it now to go normal too. I happen to have an icon, but if I didn't have it, I could hit the space bar. Get that one into your brain, by the way. If you want this orientation screen, hitting the space bar will turn it on. If you click this little thumbtack, it will stay. But you really don't need it to stay because you know that the space bar will always bring it up. It's a really simple command. So somebody use that to go normal too. I'm going to build this rectangle just slightly differently. I'm going to window around it, delete everything. I'm going to right click and build, instead of center rectangle, corner rectangle. This is the way we used to do it before they came up with that fancy tool called center rectangle. We would draw a construction line from one corner to the other. I can just draw the line using the line tool, or right click in here and go to line and draw a line from one corner to the other. The click drag method makes one independent line. But the trouble with this right now is that if I went to extrude it, it doesn't know which side. See, that line divides and it says, oh, we want this side or that side. Sees that as a dividing line. But if I pick that line and make it a construction line, check this box for construction, it makes a dashed line. Now I go to extrude boss base, it sees the whole shape. It ignores that, that's not a boundary. So in the old days, before they came up with that center rectangle, let me go to normal 2, what we did was we would select that line, hold the control key down and select origin, and we would add a midpoint relation. That made the rectangle centered about origin. So it was the old way of doing it before they came up with this fancy center rectangle. You see that I've got far fewer relations in my version, just one midpoint relation, instead of 2 of these things that center and coincident. It doesn't really matter. One way or the other, what I want is this end result. I'm going to pick, these 2 lines, make them equal. I'm going to dimension this rectangle, now a perfect square, at some sort of value, and now I've got a fully defined sketch. I can still show that it's fully defined. I go to extruded boss base, and I make a mid-plane. End condition, make that mid-plane, and click OK. So now I've got the beginnings of a block, and if you get the idea with this lab project that I've sent out to you, what we're basically going to do is do some sketching on each one of the surfaces of this cube. But here's a real key. I want to go back to that handout to show you something. Let's see. At the very start of it, create a file named, I've called it GC _ lab 1. And I tell you, use your own initials, not mine. My name is Gary Corley. That's why it says GC lab 1. If you send me one that says GC lab 1, I hope your initials are GC. I have been burned on that. Tell somebody, hey, you forgot to change it. The guy says, well, my name's, I don't know what it was, but it was GC, and I thought, okay, you got me there. But invariably, it happens every semester, somebody doesn't really understand that. This is my quick way of being able to organize and see, yes, I got your file, I'll put it in your folder. I can go deeper and find out whose it was, but it's just easier for me to be able to see the file name. So what I do right now, I'm going to go to SolidWorks. I'm going to save, right now that I've got this simple little cube, and I'm going to save it on the desktop. I might make a folder for myself. Maybe I'll just name it Gary's SW Labs or Lab Projects. I'm just naming the folder, and I hit